Good evening, viewers. Once more, your host, friend, Dr. Gilbert Githere. Today, we have an interesting topic: virtual companies, or previously people would call them outsourcing of jobs to Nairobi, or Cape Town, or Lagos, Abuja. You know, you are in America and you outsource jobs, where labor is cheap. It has its own problems. But there are so many companies now, that's the order of the day. The multinationals of yesteryears have gone virtual reality. So they are online selling products. That's why performative economy is structural law of economy or value has come to fruition. The economy as we knew it previously, where labor was important, has kind of been overtaken by where the digital world or the digital realm is the king now. And most of the virtual businesses that are doing well is because they don't use as much labor, they use digits. And digits travel faster. The information put in the form of a digit travels faster. A byte travels faster on the internet, on fiber optics. Now, that's a very interesting topic, but it has got its own problems as you look at it. The biggest problem actually is to formulate a structure of the two groups that are going to be working together. Because you just realize forming of teams, competence, context, composition, and change, 4 C's. Those are very, very important things to be put together so to be able to work effectively and efficiently and as required. And that's where you find leadership becomes of the utmost importance. Because if there are two groups, one in Nairobi and one, for example, in Honolulu here, or one in Cape Town, or Johannesburg, or Abuja, you have got to form the companies in such a way that the two leaders are able to synchronize the departments: finance, marketing, sales, finance, human resource, and many, many other branches which form a company. They got to be in sync. The expectation of the workers, the psychological satisfaction of the workers has to be considered when you're forming these virtual companies. Because if these things don't synchronize, there's a possibility of failure. So actually, virtual companies, as good as they might look, they have their own problems when it comes to setting them up and they are effectively working as required. Now, the leadership which formulates strategy and vision, because the mission statement of a company has got to be fulfilled. And at the bottom of every company is the aspect of profit. You got to make back your investment money. It doesn't matter who you are. You might be, there's the social element, social benefits of serving the community and bettering people's lives. There's a social credit, which you can get as a result of investing in some countries where you help them prosper. In any Democratic Republic of Congo, where they produce all kind of minerals, very, very rare minerals that go into making of most of the digital equipment, computers, androids, cellular phones, and most of the very vital aspect of artificial intelligence. The hardware, the products of these hardwares, especially the chips, most of these rare minerals come from the Democratic Republic of Congo. And you see people are exploiting the forest, they're exploiting the people, they're exploiting the forests, nature, and they're not putting back as much as required if you compare how much they're taking out. So some of these cultural differences, when you invest somewhere virtually, you got to be careful that actually, because of the history itself of exploitation, is that these companies have got to be set with a lot of care so that the social profit or social benefits go to the people of those areas. I'm not going to go into the details of that kind. I'm just saying the difficulty of forming virtual companies. Some of these things have got to be considered. And most of the differences that you have when you form companies in the virtual world is the cultural differences. And that becomes what motivates somebody in Abuja or in Harare or in Nairobi or in Khartoum or in Cairo. What motivates a person in Dar es Salaam? You might find that something which motivates a guy from Tuskegee is not the same like what motivates somebody in Kariobangi, Nairobi. So these are the kind of things you got to take care of. What motivates the workers in these places as you're setting virtual companies. So that when you start to reward their expectations and to satisfy their psychological safety, you will have things in place that you have really concretely studied them. And if I do this to this person living in Kariobangi, Nairobi, he'll be satisfied working for this pharmaceutical company that we have set in Nairobi South B or in Kwamaiko or Gwakoheni. You have set a company there, or Upper House of Manji. You have set a company, or Enterprise Road, you have set up a company at Jogo Road. They're going to be satisfied. So, virtual companies, as important and as essential as they are, there are some things they have got to be very, very careful. Now, the selection of the people also becomes an issue. Because as we said, composition, competencies, change, and context are very, very, very important when you're forming these virtual companies. The context, the culture, the culture of the company, the mission statement. Is it going to be compatible with the environment you are setting the virtual company? Are people going to accept really your mission statement? And will it coincide or agree with the cultural values of those people? So these kind of things, they're very, very, very sensitive when you're forming companies in these kind of places. So there are some people who have succeeded in forming good companies, and they are synchronizing so well, and products are selling, and there isn't much disagreement, because if you abuse the expectation of the people, or we thought these companies, when they come to our country, they will be very, very careful on the way they treat the community that they live in. Because when you reward people in some countries, you don't reward an individual. it's kind of like a taboo to reward an individual. So in most cases, you find the reward has got to be group reward. And sometimes it is difficult. That is why sometimes it is so difficult to separate corruption and reward in some countries. Because an old man will walk in, you're a principal of a school, and you'll see an old man from the periphery of the school has just walked in, and he's culling a chicken. And, he tells you, Mr. So-and-so, I've come and I want to give you this, chicken. You go home, Labor Day is coming, so you can enjoy this and partake it with your family. For you to refuse that in some countries is completely going against the cultural values. You say, thank you, may God bless you, and you take it with heavy heart because the company might be, the international company doesn't allow that, but you report it to the company. Oh, this man I respect so much walked in, left me with this chicken, and I know I put it in some charitable organization. These kind of things are difficult. Now, sometimes the working hours. For example, as I'm talking to you from Honolulu in Hawaii now, it's daytime, but some people in Nairobi, they're sleeping. So you see, when you form a virtual company, this become issues. How are you going to compensate people when they work late at night? Is it going to be overtime? So there are several things which have got to be considered when you form a virtual company in a different part of the world. It is as just these things are going to be thrown in detail. And when you do this, you got to get kind of experts in your company who will advise you on the nitty-gritty of that particular area that you're in. And that's why you're starting to find that in a global village, everybody is important. Because if you don't do that, then if you're a pharmaceutical company, you will not be able to sell, your medicine, your drugs, the latest inventions. Sometimes you want to also to help those people. So you get to set up a structure and a form of a company that really fits that place. Then the profit element. The profit element in some developing countries, let's say you're selling something $5 in Mililani in Hawaii. When you go into Kisumu, in Panpire or Kagelo, might be you sell 50 cents or $2. So you see there is a difference of quite an amount of money, $3. So the formation of the company also have got to take this kind of issues into consideration. What kind of investment are you going to have in a virtual company that is set up in Kisumu, in Panpire? You got to know what kind of company are you going to form. So until we meet again, this is your host, Gilbert Githere, coming to your home with this pandemic going on, just stimulating your minds with some ideas, getting to know you. Hope you like what I say sometimes. I have a small institute I'm starting on Google Class. I'm building it up. And I'll need help. Some of you who see me, might come in as partners, these kind of things need investment. I want to establish a kind of an institute where, the indigenous people from really remote areas of the developing world are also given a chance to be heard and to be educated, to be informed, not with misinformation, with proper information. It's called Hawaii Honolulu, Mombasa, sister city, and it's actually, that's a non-profit, tax exempt in the US. So the gogo class I'm conducting it under that umbrella, so that when we start setting it up, we can enjoy a IRS, a 5103C, and it's a non-profit. It has got ID number for IRS. So if you give a grant to that Google class, you'll be benefiting people from developing countries, remote areas where education needs to get them during this COVID problem. So I have the details there, and I can give details of how to participate as time goes on if I see any interest. So my name is Gilbert Githere, Dr. Gilbert Githere. For now, I'm going to leave you with a small Swahili song. It's called Maji ya Mvua ya Chemichemi. Water from a well or a spring. It's not like rainwater. A spring water is forever, and spring is called Chemichemi. Maji ya mvua yapitayo huja kwa wingi na kelele, dakika chache yakaukapo hutuachia ya chemichemi. Hilo ni funzo, mjifunze, ya chemichemi hayakauki. Maji ya mvua yapitayo huja kwa wingi na kelele, dakika chache yakaukapo hutuachia ya chemichemi. Hilo ni funzo, mjifunze, ya chemichemi hayakauki. Ya chemichemi hayakauki. There was a band in Nairobi called Chemi Chemi. So I give credit to the members in the 60s. And there was the Kiko Kids. There was a competition between the two bands. So Chemi Chemi told the Kiko Kids, they are like spring, and the Kiko Kids are like rainwater. So they must know, when all is done and there is really drought, only spring water will be left. So that's a good thing to end up this program with. Until we meet again, this is your host, Dr. Gilbert Githere saying, cha-cha.